Good morning and welcome back to WKNI TV 25. It has been upside down here this morning. We appreciate our guest hanging in there a few minutes later than normal. But Mark Christensen, thank you for coming on WKNI.
You're welcome.
Boy, we were talking about it earlier. We've kind of told folks we're going to be talking about the Catholic Church and the Pope and what happened over the past few days. And you're a Catholic and you go to...
Yes, I'm a Roman Catholic. I go to Our Lady Queen of Mercy Church in Montgomery.
Okay. And now, when you say Roman Catholic, is there a difference between Catholic and Roman Catholic?
Well, actually there is. That people don't always realize that, because most of the time when you think of Catholic, you will think of Rome and Roman Catholic.
Right.
Catholic, the word itself actually means universal, and the head of the church is the Pope, and what we refer to as the Roman Catholic Church is maybe more correctly referred to as the Latin Rite Church, even though most people going to a Catholic church in this country are going to go to a Mass that's in English. It's actually part of the Latin Rite. But there are other rites that recognize the Pope and will use liturgies that are very similar to what the Greek Orthodox Church uses, and there are smaller groups in Lebanon. You have groups such as the Maronite Rite, which uses Aramaic, which is the language used by Jesus, but they recognize the Pope as the head of the church. So there are different rites, even though the largest by far and the most familiar to people is the Roman Rite.
Well, I didn't know all that. I know I was raised under the Roman Catholic Church. My mom was she was Hispanic, and we went to the Church of the Incarnation in Tampa, and Father O'Sullivan. I'll never forget. He'll never forget me either. But I was an altar boy, believe that, back in the day. And there's a lot of concentration or attention, let's use the right word, attention this week, well actually over the past couple of months, toward the Catholic Church because of the Pope resigning, and that was very unusual. I mean... It
was. It almost never happens, although it has happened in the past, and canon law provides for that as long as it's freely done. It is not something that can be coerced, and it was totally unexpected when Benedict XVI announced that he was going to resign, even though in the past he has made mention of that, and even though I have always been a big fan of Benedict XVI, Cardinal Ratzinger, he I think saw what happened in the decline of John Paul II and how it was difficult for him to govern the church, and I think he saw himself becoming weaker and thinking that would be a bad thing for the church. And those that have this kind of stereotype of Benedict XVI, if they would stop and look, it would constantly be proven wrong, but his resignation itself shows that he is really an innovator and a very humble man who saw himself as not able to carry on as he thought should be done, and he decided to resign and let a new man take over, and we now have Francis.
Well, the Pope, was it Benedict before this?
Yeah, Benedict XVI.
Right, and then the one before him
was John Paul II.
John Paul II, that's right. John Paul II was very ill over the last few years of his life, and a lot of folks were very critical of the church and the way it was being run, because they said that his staff was running the Vatican and the Catholic Church, and it wasn't him so much because he was not of health to do the job. And I think, a lot of folks are kind of happy to see that this former Pope Benedict, how do you call him former Pope, though? I mean,
well, the title Pope Emeritus or Emeritus Bishop of Rome, is the emeritus being the relevant term there to be used to refer to him.
Wow. 'Cause I mean, it's hard to say the former pope because and that's still alive. I mean, you know, it's usually, you know, the other way around. But anyway, the new pope. Okay, we had a conclave. A lot of folks don't understand what a conclave is. Could you share with us?
Sure. In the governance of the Catholic Church, there's a group of men known as the cardinals, and the cardinals traditionally were the clergy from the city of Rome who helped the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, to govern things. But from the 12th century on, it has been their job to elect a new Pope. And the word conclave itself means conclave, with a key, and it comes from a time when the cardinals were taking quite a while to elect a new Bishop of Rome, and the Roman citizens got a little bit impatient and decided to lock them in until they came up with a successor. And so there are extraordinary steps taken now to keep any outside influence from coming in to the conclave, and they're fairly elaborate rules for how things are done. There's a secret ballot. The cardinal electors write on a slip of paper, and they go up, put it into an urn. They're taken out and counted. They have a needle and thread, so that as a vote is counted, it gets put on this needle and thread, so that they can't have any, you know, thing getting counted twice or so on. And this is all set out, and there has to be a 2/3 majority for there to be a pope elected.
So no chads. No chads.
No hanging chads. No. The ballots are actually burned, and that's what you probably saw on television, people gathering to see the smoke coming up. And in the old days, if there was an inconclusive ballot and the ballots were being burned, they'd throw some wet straw in to make the smoke darker, and then the final group of ballots where someone was elected, they would be, you know, just the paper, and so it would be white smoke. Nowadays they use some chemicals to make the smoke the appropriate color, so there's no confusion, because sometimes people would say, well, that looks kind of gray to me. I can't tell whether there's a new pope or not.
Well, there's a lot of history that is I'll use the word traditionally over the years, the history of way things are done. Like you said, everything's pretty well set in order and why it's done that way. Now, I got to get there because these guys look neat. They wear the helmets and they have the spears. What are they called?
Those are the Swiss Guard.
And they don't fool around with the Pope, do they? I mean, if somebody, I mean, they're prepared to protect that Pope.
They will give their lives, and in fact, when the Rome was sacked one time in the 16th century, the Swiss Guards, a number of them were killed defending the Pope, and they are all the officers are permanent. The guards themselves come from certain Catholic cantons in Switzerland. They've already done their mandatory Swiss Army service. They have to be unmarried, and they come down and spend a couple of years in the Guard, and they take an oath to defend the Pope with their lives.
Wow. Very impressive stuff. A lot of things people don't know about behind the scenes. When we come back, we're going to take a quick commercial break. I'd like to talk some about what the requirements are that they're looking, you know, how do you become a cardinal? How do you become, you know, how does that happen? And then you've got the priest, and there's been a lot of talk about priests getting married and things like this. This Pope yesterday impressed me. I told you that when you came in. He's a very humble man. I mean, he doesn't drive his own vehicles anywhere. He takes public transportation in Argentina, and he lives in a very humble abode, as they called it. I believe it was an apartment or something that with regular people around him. He doesn't, have all and then he chose his cross that he wears as his own cross that he had from Argentina instead of the great big gold heavy cross that most of the popes have. A lot of things there, and that where do you think, this is just for food for thought, where do you think now the church will go from here with this new pope? Is he going to be old-fashioned, or is he going to be looking toward more of the modern thing? Now, his Twitter account turned back on yesterday, so I don't know if that means anything or not. We were sitting here, and the first thing the media reported, hey, the Pope's Twitter account is, back on, and but today it was all in Latin, wasn't it, Carlton? Yes. So, not much of us.
Well, actually, not a lot is known about this new Pope, the Cardinal Bergoglio. He's a Jesuit. He's 76
That's
years old.
That's the first.
It is. It's the first Jesuit Pope. He does seem to be a very humble man. I think those that are hoping for some radical changes are going to be sadly disappointed. I've read some comments he made, for instance, on the issue of homosexual marriage in Argentina. When the government pushed that through, he made some comments about that this was not just a political issue, it was contravening God's plan for mankind, and that used the words, the father of lies, which is Satan, was
right.
The one that was behind this. So I think those that think, oh, there's going to be some great change are going to be sadly mistaken. I've seen some accounts saying, oh, yes, he's a liberation theologian. I don't know anything specifically about that from having, I have not really read anything by him. As far as I know, he's only published one book. There may be others, but I've only heard of one. But I suspect that those folks that would say that he's a liberation theologian are confusing concern for the poor with the liberation theology, which is generally has been frowned upon by the Catholic Church.
He seems to be very, very humble. When he addressed the crowd, he addressed it in a very personable way. When he stepped out on the balcony, and when he closed, at the end, what was it he said? Y'all go home and go to bed and get some rest and pray, for the church. And
well, that, and he asked them first off to give. Said let's pray for Benedict the 16th and thanksgiving for what he has done, and then he asked the people to pray for him before he gave a blessing that God would bless him and guide him, and so he does seem to be very humble from everything that I've seen so far. He has maintained a very humble lifestyle, but that he's also just because somebody's humble doesn't mean they're a pushover. He has stood strong against repressive government in Argentina, first in the 1970s as one of the leaders of the Jesuit order in that country. Stood strong against what you would say of right-wing military dictatorship, and now with Christina Kirchner, where they're leaning towards leftist policies, he's stood strong against both those and speaks for the people and for human rights, and he's emphasized that one of those basic human rights is the right to life. He's a strong opponent of abortion. So again, those that think that the Catholic Church is going to change views on traditional things, it's not simply a matter of getting a new person in. The Church teaches what it teaches because it's the truth, and not because of somebody having some political view about what things ought to be done.
Mark, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We got to pay the bills. You know how that works. But we'll come back. I want to talk about the different levels here, because we're talking about the Pope, which is the highest part or icon of the church for the Catholics. Well, it's not just Catholics. You mentioned earlier there's different religions.
Well, they're all Catholic, different rites within
Different
the Catholic.
rites.
But well,
I didn't know
I'll
that
let
till
you
today.
I'll let you go to your commercial, and then I'll do some explaining about those things.
All right. It's Mark Christensen, real live and in person, right here on WKNI. I've seen him in court, and you are that way in court too. You're very
Well, I'm a shy person. I'm not an extrovert like you, but like I said, just because somebody is humble and shy doesn't mean they can't be forceful.
Boy, I want to get you on and talk about your lawyer or law career, because
Yeah, let's save that for another
yeah,
morning.
it's another morning. But
Teasing me with a commercial for 10 minutes now.
oh, Carlton's over there like got his finger on the button. But Mark, we'll be come right back. Well, I'll ask you to do what Teresa does over there. We ask all our guests to do, and they say one thing before we go to commercial break, and that is keep it real.
Say, keep it real.
Keep God in it.
Well,
And
that's important.
That's very important, because it's not real if God isn't in it, and that's why we say that going into commercials. But God bless y'all. We love you. We'll be back with more with Mark Christensen, the new Pope, the Catholic history and religion a little bit. This man is very knowledgeable on all that, and we're excited to have him on here, and hopefully he can spend some time with us this morning and enlighten us. God bless you. We'll be right back right after this.